Hey guys, Tarke here, and today I'm going to very briefly make a video talking about class identity. I will be doing a full Ascendancy review once all the Ascendancies are out. I don't want to be a clickbait YouTuber who just makes pigeonhole videos about the bigger picture. That being said, I do want to talk about GGG's new Ascendancy philosophy that they've posted here. So they say that we care about class identity. We want each Ascendancy class to feel completely different from the others so that players can connect with the identity of each class and feel tempted to try other ones out. On paper, I like this. However, I must admit I am slightly worried about this design process. The reason why this slightly worries me is, in my mind, Path of Exile was never about class identity. And you run a very dangerous line where if you pigeonhole classes too much, if people like a particular kind of build, they only ever play the same Ascendancy over and over again. And since Ascendancies are tied to classes and classes are tied to set starting positions on the skill tree, you can end up in a bit of an awkward situation where you're always in the same part of the tree, always doing the same kind of thing. A good example I use for this is Uber's PoE profile. Now, currently, if you're playing a summoner, I think that's pretty fair enough. Like, I think we can agree that you may not agree with the idea that we shouldn't have specialization, but I don't think anything I say there is that crazy. I basically say that I think it's slightly problematic because you can be in a situation much like Uber, where if you, for example, only like playing summoners, you're only in Necro, meaning you're always in the same part of the tree. There's nothing there which is opinion. That is all factual. That is all 100% factual. If you over-specialize, you can have limited options. Nothing there is opinion-based. That's all true. Only ever play a Necromancer. If you're someone who likes to mostly play summoners, then you have profiles which are just a whole lot of Necromancers, right? And for some people, that's a good thing. For other people, that's a bad thing. A lot of the summoner community would kind of like more options than just Necromancer. And I'm a little bit worried that this new kind of focusing will lead to much more of the same, where you're only ever playing the same thing over and over and over again. Now, I'll talk about a few different things, but before I go into that, I want to quickly talk about the new player fallacy. So when I first mentioned this in chat, a lot of people saying, well, no, Tarke, this is really good because this is really good for new players. Because now, when Ascendancies are so obvious, like what their strengths are, then new players have a much easier time when it comes to making characters. Now, if that's the case, I feel like they should update the character creation screen, because a brand new player who knows nothing about the game, when they make a new character, doesn't even know what an Ascendancy is. They just kind of go, oh, I want to play a guy with a big hammer, so I guess I'll pick this guy and listen to some roleplay. And that's kind of that. There's no idea of Ascendancy, and the whole thing of class identity never really existed in PoE before, and if you want to start focusing around class identity, then you're kind of making MMO aspects of the game. Now, that's all fairly true. Nothing there is nothing that crazy. To me, it seems you want to casualize the game. Sorry, but people who get enough gaming knowledge are not stupid. They research. Any guide already tells you that Marauders are not any big man with big axe. I'm curious how me saying that they should update the character creation screen makes the game more casual. That I find quite interesting. How does updating the character creation screen make the... like, how does that change the game for anyone who's actually played the game before? All that updating the character creation screen would do is give people who don't know anything a little bit more information. I find it very interesting that you would be against that. Like, the character creation screen is just outdated. example of what the character creation screen should then probably look like is kind of something like this. If you want class identity to be a thing, then you kind of have to put some class identity into your character creation screen. So it's kind of like, oh, you want to play a Marauder? Here's the different examples. Here's some, like, sample skills. Again, I find this all a little bit iffy, but that's kind of, if that's the direction you want, update your character creation screen. But I think the whole... Thank you, Ryan, for that Subariru. Thank you, homie. I appreciate that. Remove character creation, the shit casualizes the game. Completely new player thing. It doesn't actually benefit from that. Now, I also think that there is a slight issue, and I've spoken a lot about threshold jewels in the past. Threshold jewels force players into certain parts of the skill tree. So a lot of jewels require X many stats in radius. So if, for example, okay, so again, while you may not agree with me, I haven't said anything opinion-based. Everything I've said so far has been factual. That I'm slightly worried because it can lead to pigeonholing, which is true. I give some relevant examples, and I mention that we should probably update the character creation screen. So far, I'm feeling good about this video. So far, 4 minutes in. We're like 1/3 of the way in, feeling good. If you ever want to play Ethereal Knives, and you're in Quiz, most people do Quiz Ethereal Knives now, you can't actually play Ethereal Knives until you've actually finished most of your build and you're over here. That isn't very new player friendly, and having builds being forced in certain parts of the tree kind of goes against the whole ascendancy thing. If you're in this situation with the new revamps where you want to play a skill which forces you to be in this bit of the tree, but the best ascendancy for it is now over here, well then all of your builds have to awkwardly travel. Having to awkwardly travel is never that great of a thing. That's pretty true. I'm sure there's a lot of people who would, like, anyone in chat who plays, like, EK in Quiz, I'm sure a lot of you would prefer to be able to activate your EK here rather than there. Isn't that opportunity cost? I guess it depends on, should the opportunity cost be okay, so should the opportunity cost be you've picked a skill, therefore you have to be this part of the tree, or should the opportunity cost be you've picked the ascendancy? Currently there's double. There's opportunity cost on the skill, and there's opportunity cost on the ascendancy. So having both of them is kind of shit. I think it should be one or the other. So I guess that's slightly opinion-based, but we've been mostly factual. Okay. And it makes builds kind of inefficient, and it means that the same builds are doing the same kinds of defense and the same kind of offense over and over again. Be it crit, be it any overload. That's all true. That's all true. This leads to the same kinds of builds doing the same kind of defense, the same kind of offense. Because of that, because if you're playing in Quiz, you have to go crit. You have to go towards the crit thing, and then you have to go to this duel. You're kind of forced into playing, you know, like you're not going to make an armor stacking, for example, in Quiz if you have to have that routing. Because there's no fucking armor scaling there, right? So I think that's fair, etc. So, you know, an example of Tarke, you know, the build's always been like this. The Necro problem, it's always been like that. Well, here are a few, like, examples going way back and modern day of you actually have quite a lot of choices within class identity. So the oldest example is the Kriparian Freeze Pulse Marauder vs Shadow. So this is before Ascendancy, way back in the Wild West of PoE, before Ascendancies ever existed. Your starting point on the tree was mostly irrelevant, and a lot of it had to do with early versus late game strengths. So using the famous Crypt Freeze Pulse character as an example, the reason why he went as a Marauder is he wanted lots of early defense for hardcore, which felt good, but you could do the exact same build as a Shadow. If you wanted to play an armor stacking, why would you play in Quiz? You should pick a build, then an Ascendancy that synergizes with that, not the other way around. If you want to play armor stacking, why would you play in Quiz? Well, no, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that if you remove the stat requirement of the jewels, because I feel like the opportunity cost of threshold jewels is you're having to use a jewel. There's actually like multiple layers of opportunity cost. Okay, so let's say that you want to play, for example, Frostbolt. Right. If you want to play Frostbolt, you have to use 2 jewels. Okay? So the opportunity cost is like 2 jewels. You then have the opportunity cost of what ascendancy you want to go, and then how many points does your ascendancy take to route to those 2 jewels. I don't know. And if you want to play Frostbolt and you have to have 2 int-based jewels, you're probably, for example, not going to pick Duelist. Right? So that's the opportunity cost. And then because you're forced into kind of being one of these top 3 ascendancies, that then means that if you want to play a Frostbolt build, you then can't play an armor build. So your defense options are so you kind of get what I'm saying? Like, you should pick the skill. Like, for example, it should be, I want to play this skill, not I want to play this ascendancy, which means because I'm playing this ascendancy, I have to play the skill, which means I have to play this defense. Example, I want to play a Dune Trio by Iron Will, Strength Stacking Marauder. I stack armor. Where am I getting 2 jewels? Yeah, you know. Like, you should pick a skill, or you pick, like, a unique, and then you build around that. You can play armor on every side of the tree. Yep. You can equip a granite flask on every side of the tree. But yeah, Iron Will's probably a better example. Bring the player, not the class. And start Shadow for more early damage, and that was kind of the trade-off. It was mostly picking how strong you wanted your early versus your late game to be. Now, a more recent example would be Elementalist versus Inquisitor back when, but so far we've all kind of, you know, I think we haven't said anything that crazy. Val Fireball was a big thing. Cute Dog has spoken about this on Bay Class before, so this is why I use this as an example. But there was a big debate back when Ignite Prolif was a thing of what's actually better for Val Fireball. Do you want to be an Inquisitor and benefit from faster shield charge or faster mapping? Or do you want to be an Elementalist and the free Prolif would actually give you faster mob clear, faster mapping when it came to stuff like Beyond? And it actually became this very big debate. And there was a big, do you want to play this or do you want to play that? Currently, any Raider versus Pathfinder, you have people who are tryhard, it's Pathfinder, no, it's tryhard, it's Raider. There are quite a few examples these days of, do I want to play this, or do I want to play this? Do I want to play a Gladiator, or do I want to play a Slayer? Obviously, when one thing becomes far too powerful, it shifts it, but the more you specialize builds, the further you walk away from the choices and the options. Another example would be something like Chieftain versus Berserker for Ancestral War Chief, where you have like the hardcore versus the softcore kind of thing. Do you want to have more damage? Do you want to have more defense? Do you spend more time in lab, in which case you'd rather... Tarke, stop trying to convince yourself a factual video will stop you from being shit on. You could be 100% correct and you'll still be shit on. I mean, that's true. That is very true. Most people don't watch video. Most people watch like 30 seconds of a video and then get bored, then scroll down to the comments, then leave their comment, then watch the rest of the video. But I'm just trying to see if at any point I just say something like really fucking crazy. Because if I do, then I should maybe re-record. But so far, like, we've been pretty kind of like, yeah, fair enough. You know, maybe do Chieftain. Do you spend more time mapping? Would you rather do this? You know, there's quite a few examples there. Again, bows being stuck into certain parts of the tree. If you're then stuck in certain parts of the tree because all of your nodes happen to be there, and then your best ascendancies happen to be there, then you just play the same thing over and over and over and over again. You do sometimes get people such as myself playing like Elite Overload style bow builds, but it's very inefficient. You have the option if you would like to but generally having very strong class identity is a little bit spoopy, in my opinion. Even in a very niche example like traps, people say, well, if you want to play a trap build... And so far, I've only said it's a little bit scary. Like, I haven't said this is the worst fucking thing in the world. You've said it's a little bit scary. Okay. You only ever play Saboteur. Well, Saboteur isn't actually that good for traps. You can do Inquis traps perfectly fine. The only questionable thing is the denim jacket. It's actually just an oversized flannel shirt. What video is this? This is a video that we just recorded on stream, and I'll upload after the stream. But I'm just checking that we don't go like any crazy shit. It'll be on YouTube in the next few hours. And Inquis traps actually has smoother mapping than Saboteur traps because of the stuff like attack speed. So, yeah. People also say, but Tarke, it makes the balancing easier. The more specialized the ascendancies are, the easier it is for GG to balance. Easy balance doesn't make something good. And also, that only works if we then have perfect balance. Now, again, I'm not... This might be a bit out there. I think this is probably the first thing I say which I might disagree with. Strong ascendancy identity is cool. First inside and built instead of position of the tree is not cool. I can kind of get around that. Yeah, no, I agree, Simon. Are you arguing with yourself? Yeah. I argue with myself. Because, okay, so, like, the way I think, especially in YouTube videos, I can have a video, and a lot of the time what will happen is I'll go down a train of thought and I will talk out loud. And then what will happen is I'll go down that train of thought, and then a month later I might have a different point of view, and then I'll go down a different thing, you know. If you have 100%, if you're 100% like you're sold in your convictions, then I think that's kind of scary. You should question yourself. No one should ever be 100%. Like, that's how you get extremists, right? Like, you should always have some level of self-doubt. And, well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe from this point of view, that could be, you know, I don't know. Not trying to step on anyone's parade or ruin, you know, anyone's fun. I'm just saying that, you know, this initial very class identity heavy focus has me slightly worried. When it comes to one other final point, just about raw power level, the fact that we are gaining so much power is also, you know, a little bit spoopy. The top 10 Marauder in Mayhem wasn't even ascended. Ascendancy isn't really needed, to be honest, at the moment. Hopefully we do see some, you know, monsters becoming more powerful. So I quite like that. If you're 100% convinced and you're a zealot, that being said, I've never seen an unhappy zealot. That doesn't make sense. Just because you're an extremist doesn't mean you didn't reflect on your point before having the view. True, but generally, when you see extremist point of view, they tend to come from people who are unwavering in their convictions. So, you know, generally, people have extreme point of views of things because of, you know, the way they were raised, or, you know, people who are pro-life, people who are pro-choice, talking about people about religion. Generally, extreme point of view tends to come from an unwavering belief system. You know, I am 100% pro-choice because of the way I was raised, the environment I was raised in, you know. I can understand, you know, people who are pro-life, and, you know, but, like, anyway. I think it's good. I think it's good to question yourself. I don't want to get into pro-life, pro-choice and Twitch. I'm just saying that, yeah, it's good to question yourself. This is getting Monka-esque. That's just more meaningful challenge being added to the game. But it is very fun, you know, having these new things. But there's a big difference between something being very fun in the short term versus something being very fun in the long term. And again, it's not about ruining anyone's fun. It's just about trying to think about things a year from now rather than a league from now. This is fucking huge. And 100%, this fucks me with the PoE community, because people do not think about things long term. People do not fucking think about things long term. And most of my things with Path of Exile are like, hey, where are we gonna be a year from now? Like, yo, are people gonna enjoy this like 5 leagues later? And this is where I get most of my shit from. Because most of the shit I get is like, why are you trying to ruin my fun? And it's like, oh, no, I'm not trying to ruin your fun. I'm just trying to say, like, is this good long term, Andy? Like, for example, I think long term, Bestiary League is great. Because it's almost definitely being added into the core game, and it adds shit. Anything which adds long term, like, fucking options is good. Short term, but it's kind of boring. I said this as much on Baycast, you know. If it's like Sextant's long term, it's boring, you know. Voltaxic can see, dude, the amount of fucking times I've spoken about that, but yeah. So yeah. Going into one other final thing that I just want to talk about, since someone brought up a pretty good example of Magic the Gathering, and I know that the development team are very big Magic fans. People say stuff like, well, you know, how do you balance things in Magic? Well, in this bit, I think this bit I might have, like, fucking jumped the shark. I can't remember what I even said here. In the case of, you know, Ascendants being overly specialized, and there will always be the option of doing something different. Should Hierophant be the best spell totem build? And also, in the case of spell totems being too powerful, how exactly would you balance that? Do you nerf spells and totems themselves, in which case any non-Hierophant spell totem build, which is always at a slight disadvantage by not being the most optimal pick, gets nerfed? Do you nerf Hierophant itself? Should, for example, Saboteur always be the de facto best trap specialization just because it is the trap-centric ascendancy? It kind of actually makes the balancing thing even more difficult, because then you then have to question, well, do we just nerf the raw gem itself? Do we then nerf it on the tree? Do we then nerf its gear scaling options? Do we then nerf its ascendancy options? How do we balance? Do we balance around Uberlab, everyone having Uberlab? Well, the vast majority of players don't even reach certain levels of maps, so then does the vast majority of players even have a fully decked out Uberlab? Yeah, the Magic the Gathering thing, I didn't actually explain that. I just said it and then went off topic. That's, yeah. The Magic the Gathering thing goes nowhere. So that I don't agree with. Because it doesn't go anywhere. Maybe we bring it back. I don't think I do, though. I don't think I do. I think I got distracted by chat at this point. But yeah, this bit, like, yeah, no, it goes nowhere. Character. Does this actually make it more easy or more difficult for a new player or a more experienced player? I know Rise QT's thought process was this actually punishes new players more, because new players won't have the game knowledge to, you know, fully incorporate the overly specialization. Whereas someone with more game knowledge, they might have more advantage, therefore they are in a situation where they have an even larger gulf. It's all very difficult, right? So it actually opens up an even larger can of worms. But yes, it is very interesting, and I am very excited and very much looking forward to seeing the new Ascendancies, and this is a very iterative process, and this is obviously all subject to change. GGG can change all of this at any point, but personally, I am not a big fan about specialized ascendancies, because in my mind, Path of Exile was never about class identity. I'm Tarke. Have a good day. Bye-bye. I think we might just upload the video of me reviewing the video. So in that case, I'm Tarke. Have a good day. Bye-bye. Oh, are we doing that now? Are we uploading the upload? Oh, shit, boys. Okay, so now I need to highlight